Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show shortly before 11:15 in the morning on this Saturday. We're thrilled to be joined on the line now by Kris King, NHL Vice President of Hockey Operations. Kris, welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Real pleasure to be on your show this morning, gentlemen.
Thanks very much. Kris, let's start with, before we get into your sort of day-to-day operations with the NHL, you're best known around these parts as the last captain of the Winnipeg Jets.
Of course.
So we have sort of a two-part question for you. A, what is your best memory as a Winnipeg Jet? And second of all, do you think a team is on its way back here?
Oh, you got to start with the tough one. Hey,
get it out of the way.
You know what? I'll start with the first part of that question. The 4 years I spent here was the best memories of being a Jet. And I mean that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but playing 14 years in 6 different cities, I got the call on the 28th of December when I was with the Rangers. Colin Campbell called me into his office, and Roger Nielsen couldn't tell me. We were pretty close at the time. I had worked for Roger for years at his hockey school, and Coley was the one that had to tell me I was traded. He says, I got some bad news for you and some really bad news for you. And I said, well, give me the bad news. He says, well, you got traded to Winnipeg. And I said, at that time, of course, I said, well, what could be worse than that? What's the really bad news? He says, Ty Domi's going with you. So anyways, as it turned out, it took me all of about a day and a half of being here and meeting the team, the people that worked for the Jets, and then getting a chance to be part of the community before I realized I'd come to a team that was built for me, small town Northern Ontario kid in a small town NHL. It was just a perfect setup for me and my family.
That's great.
And the second part, as a hockey fan, it would be great to see hockey back in this great city, and again for the fans. I mean, I spent 2 hours this morning talking to hockey fans asking me the same thing, and as a league executive, I know nothing. I'll borrow Sergeant Schultz his answer there. You know what? To tell you the truth, I really don't know. We're not in the process or the time right now to expand in our league. I think 30 teams is where we want to be and where we're very comfortable. But I think our priority, and I say ours, Gary's and Bill's priority, is to keep our team strong and competitive, and I think that's their focus right now, but they know that there's other cities out there that would love to have teams there for new cities, as well as teams like Winnipeg and Quebec who would love to have a team back. So.
And you speak about your role in the NHL, Kris, and you're in the war room in Toronto, watching all the games. Can you maybe walk our listeners through, what happens in the war room when a play needs to be reviewed?
Sure. Well, we have a system now where we can actually talk directly to the on-ice official. Before, it was interesting when I started 10 years ago. You'd pick up the phone, you'd phone the video goal judge in the building, he'd pick up the phone, and he'd phone down to the penalty box, and then they'd hand the phone through the glass, talk to the referee, who'd talk to the video goal judge. The goal judge would relay what he said, and somewhere along that line of Ma Bell, we'd get confused and lost and sometimes unsure of what we were looking at. We now have a system in place that was built specifically for us at the NHL, where we have the ability in Toronto to talk directly to the official when he puts that headset on, and it's allowed us to get the calls right, get the information we need to make the correct calls. Whenever there's a play on, we have somebody monitoring every game. Every game that's on TV is monitored by somebody in our department. We're not just watching for goals. We're watching for discipline, of course. We're watching and building files for things in the game that we might need. We relay our game sheets that we build directly to our officiating department. Terry Gregson takes those notes, and if he feels there's things he needs to talk with his specific official about, he can clip those clips that we point out to him and send them to him. They can talk about things while they're looking at them on the computer or over the phone. But when it is a video replay, we can initiate a review from Toronto through our video goal judge, who has a horn in his booth in every building, or they can tell us, geez, you know what, back here at 14:25, we think a puck on line. When the play stops, we'll initiate a review, and we'll go through the process, and using the amount of angles that TV gives us, as well as our overhead cameras we have in every building, we'll try to get the right call, and for the most part, we think where we're at right now is as good as we can do it, but obviously we know that technology is always changing, and we're looking to find better ways to get it right at 100% of the time.
Rob Blake was recently hired by the NHL's operations department, and there have been some rumors that he will be located on the West Coast. Does the NHL kind of have, as part of their mission, the goal to want to have more of a presence on the West Coast?
Well, I think more importantly, we just felt that add a guy with the experience that Rob Blake and the amount of success that he's had, his hockey knowledge, the fact that he was part of the original competition committee. Blakey's a perfect fit for what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay current. I'm currently the last guy off the ice in our department, and that's been since 2001. So 10 years removed from the dressing room. Guys know Brendan Shanahan. Guys know Rob Blake. When we need to relay messages or get a feel what the players are feeling on the ice, those are certainly the guys that can go and talk to players. So adding Blakey was something selfishly good for our department. You can never have enough good hockey people in our part of the business, and as well, gives Rob the opportunity to stay in touch with the teams out west, whether it be Anaheim, San Jose, L.A., and I know that he'll be doing a lot of that, but I know Blake will be spending a lot of time with us in Toronto as well.
We're joined on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show by Kris King, NHL Vice President of Hockey Operations. Now, Kris, another part of one of your roles is to sort of patrol and investigate the different kinds of equipment that the players are using. And one of the big topics we've discussed on the show is how the equipment isn't so much for protection anymore; it's more for body armor to really, maximum impact when they're delivering a body check or anything along those lines. What steps are being taken in the front offices in the NHL to sort of move back move away from the body armor aspect into more of just the softer equipment that we saw, in the 80s and beforehand in the NHL?
Well, for the last 3 years, hockey ops has tried to take control back of what's being produced for our players. Obviously, our players are bigger, are stronger, the game's faster, and our rink size hasn't changed. So the speed that's generated by these better athletes, the flow of the game with the new rules has allowed for bigger collisions. And again, like I said, we're a confined sport. So you're going to hit something, whether it's a player or the environment being boards and glass eventually. And, in 2003, we made the elbow pads softer. There was a big swell of head injuries and concussions caused by the hard shoulder or the elbow pads. We recently did that with our shoulder pads, all player shoulder pads, the shoulder caps and arm extensions have to be covered with a half-inch of padding. Some people say it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bumper, like I said, with those other reasons of how big our athletes are. But we'll know in a couple of years when we look at the data if this has helped. I don't think it'll hurt having a softer hitting surface for the guy receiving. But at the same time, we also have to remember that we have to have equipment on players that will protect them. And that's what we're working through now. But we're always working with the manufacturers to make sure that our players are protected. And again, the players that are on the ice with them are as protected as they can be as well. And that's kind of our mandate now. But we're trying to grab a little bit of control back, and that's just been the way it is lately. So
certainly,
it's a process that we'll continue to work with the players and the manufacturers and the Players Association.
Certainly a good thing, and progress is always good in that regard. Kris, you talked about the war room earlier, and apparently you guys are possibly getting a new one next year. But in a recent article, I read that you guys, keep track of such things as funny bounces and poor ice conditions. And I just want to know, from a personal standpoint, how do you keep track of, if there's 15 games on or 12 games on, how do you keep track of so many things at once?
Well, it's multitasking, really, but each guy's in charge of a game or two, depending, he's 7 o'clock and a 10 o'clock start, and we're watching every play that happens. Obviously, we're logging different plays. There's different log these certain plays, and whatever the flavor of the game might be at the time, we'll track different things for different reasons, and it's something that we can build a file over the course of a year and use those when we talk with general managers in our meetings or board of governors. And right now we're talking about concussions and the amount of concussions that are happening to our players. And we've just recently did a study, and we found that concussions are up a little bit, but sorry guys, I'm just getting out of a cab here at the airport. My stay in Winnipeg was a short one. I actually got out of the airport last night, and it was +2, and I thought I got on the wrong flight somewhere,
Yeah.
I don't remember ever being here for 4 years where it's been above zero. But anyways, it's something that's we're always working on to make sure we're on top of what's happening on the ice, and we can report to the powers that be exactly what is happening. So,
Kris, as you get into a cab, we've got one last question for you here, and then we'll let you go. You've been traveling from Toronto to Calgary as part of a promotion tour for the NHL's Heritage Classic, and you've also been traveling with an ice making machine. So we have two-part question for you here. What's the fan reaction been like to the ice making machine, and what's the anticipation been like for the NHL Winter Classic? Pardon me, Heritage Classic. Sorry.
Well, they, the fans are quite a taken when they come by the truck. We were out at McPhillips Canadian Tire today for the Tim Hortons Heritage Tour. Truck Canadian Tire is partnered up with Tim Hortons to sponsor this tour. We left Toronto on Tuesday. Our driver arrived late last night in Winnipeg. We parked the 53-foot trailer outside the Canadian Tire store. People got a chance to have a look at it, and I mean it's very unique. There's no other one like it. We have an entire ice plant and monitoring system inside this 53-foot trailer. It's moving on to Regina, Saskatoon, stops in Edmonton, and then Calgary by Thursday. Dan Craig and his ice crew will open the doors, attach the hoses, flip the switch, and start making ice. And it's not really that simple, but it's not that difficult either. It's everything is self-contained in that truck that allows us to make ice anywhere, and good ice. And it's the fans are pretty interested in it, and it's stickered up. It's all logoed up with the Heritage logos on it, and it's quite a moving billboard for the NHL. I think the people of Calgary are really going to have fun with this, and our Canadian fans are getting a chance to host an outdoor game again. The last one was in Edmonton in 2003, and hopefully we'll have more as the years go on.
NHL Vice President of Hockey Operations, Kris King, thanks very much for joining us this morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, and fly safely, obviously, on your next destination on the promoting the Heritage Classic.
Well, I'll tell you, I got to take a little break and back to Toronto to the video room. We got games this Saturday,
tonight,
so
yeah.
I'll be making all the right calls tonight, gentlemen.
Okay, well, there you go. Thanks, Kris.
Thanks very much.
Talking to you.
Take care.
Always a pleasure. See you.
Bye-bye. That was Kris King, NHL Vice President of Hockey Operations, on his way back to Toronto for the. I guess he's not doing the Bruins Sharks game. That's probably not his responsibility at the moment.
A class act.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I have an occasion to meet him when I was a kid, and just the nicest guy you're going to meet.
Just a young little Paul.
A young little lad, and he's one of the nicest guys you're going to meet, and you could clearly see the class and that he demonstrated just in this interview. I mean.
King and Dome came to Winnipeg.
King and Ty. I got the poster up still. Mark Osborne and Eddie Olczyk.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember that.
Great trade for Winnipeg. I mean, Eddie Olczyk, you wouldn't like to see him go, but the toughness.
He came back anyway.
He came back. Yeah. But yeah, no, that was a good trade. Anyways, let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to do an abbreviated version of Rapid Fire, and then we still have Jim Fox, analyst for the Los Angeles Kings, still to come.
Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Who was Ty Domi traded to the Leafs for?
Daryl Shannon.
Mike Eastwood.
Oh, Mike Eastwood. Nice.
Nice.
Also was the captain for a little bit, wasn't he?
I don't think so. But there's a band in Winnipeg, and Mike Eastwood and
to check that. If Mike Eastwood was ever captain, I think he might have been captain of the Jets.
I don't think so.
I think it was Tkachuk and then King.
We'll check right now.
Our last captain was
King. I think it went from Tkachuk to King. I don't think Mike Eastwood ever got it.
Because Tkachuk, after he signed the contract.
Yeah, they stripped him of the C because the backlash. Think about it. Remember, he was making $6 whole million a year, and they thought
scored 50 goals though, Drew.
Of course he did. And they thought the backlash would be too much. Let's go to break. When we come back, it's time for Rapid Fire. You're listening to the Eagle Curve Hockey Show live on Sports Radio 1290.